Am I the a hole for refusing to use the money inherited from my mother to pay for medical treatment for my half-sister, who has a life-threatening sickness? She is the child of my father and the woman he cheated on my mother with. When I was 25, we found out that my father had been cheating on my mother for years and he had a 7-year-old daughter with his mistress. In one split second, the happy family I knew was gone, and I went through the darkest time in my life. My parents divorced, and per their prenut, my mother walked away with most of their assets, and she also contributed more to the family income. She never forgave my dad for what he did and never talked to him again, though she grudgingly allowed me to have whatever relationship I wanted to have with him. I eventually forgave my dad mostly because I was tired of carrying so much anger and hurt in my heart. I talked to him, but I want nothing to do with his mistress or my half-sister. My mother died last year and left me everything: her money, her real estate assets, and her business, which I now own and operate. I am in a relatively comfortable financial position, while my dad is getting by. He was never a good businessman on his own and lost a lot of his money on businesses that later went belly up. This year my half-sister was diagnosed with a life-threatening sickness, and she has been in the hospital for the last 4 months. The bills are mounting, and my dad came to me for help because they are now in a situation where they are finding it difficult to come up with money for my half-sister's treatment. The thing is, I don't want to use my mother's money to pay for the treatment of the child her husband had with his other woman. Though it's not my half-sister's fault, it feels so unfair when I think that the money my mother worked hard all her life for will go to a child that neither my mother and I had any responsibility towards. And the very same child of the man and the woman who hurt her so much at that. I'd really rather use it to grow her company and let my dad and my half-sister's mother figure out how to get money for her treatment. They are her parents after all. The only thing tying me to her is my father saying, "She is your sister, and if she dies because she didn't get the treatment she needs, would you be able to sleep at night?"
Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter she was being a brat after she cried about blowing out her birthday candles? I have 4 kids, 23, 20, 16, and 13. This concerns my oldest. I'll refer to her as Zara. We don't normally do big parties in our family after double digits, an 18th, 21st. But Zara has been going through a bit of a difficult time, so we decided to throw her a surprise party. This was yesterday. It was a big family party, and Zara was enjoying it. Then the cake was brought out. I have a lot of young nieces and nephews, so naturally they wanted to stand up with Zara, and she had no issue. When she went to blow out the candles, my 5-year-old niece blew most of them out before her. Everyone laughed it off. My youngest actually put 23 candles on the cake, and there were still a few lit. So I told Zara to blow those out. She did, but she looked angry and started crying. She then walked off. After that it got quite awkward, and my sister niece's mom got upset, embarrassed, that her daughter is a kid and didn't mean to do it, and she didn't think Zara would act like this. We all calmed her down that it's not their fault. I talked to Zara and told her she was being a selfish brat and making a scene. She's 23 getting mad about birthday candles. She was still upset, and my other kids are telling me I wasn't being fair with Zara. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my girlfriend to nice places because she eats like a kid? My girlfriend is an incredibly picky eater. Like I said in my title, she eats like she is 10 years old. In fact, I'll give a short list of things she refuses to eat: unflavored water, fish excluding fried shrimp, anything with bones, cheese other than sharp cheddar, spinach, onions, garlic, pasta without red sauce, eggs, spicy food, aioli, ketchup, potatoes other than French fries, pastries with fruit, citrus, sausage, or any non-American food. This compares to me, someone who grew up in multiple different regions of the US and lived in abroad for a few years. So I'm a bit more adventurous when it comes to food. Whenever me and my girlfriend go out somewhere nice, she ends up getting the same meals, usually either a burger or chicken tenders and fries. We could be going to an authentic Nepalese restaurant and she will get the French fries and white rice. To me, it's kind of embarrassing to go to a restaurant where there is a dress code and for her to order chicken tenders and fries. It especially bothers me that since I typically pay, I end up paying $15 for chicken tenders that I could get from the freezer section at Walmart for $5. Recently in our area, a very nice dinner place opened up and my girlfriend has been dying to go. I took a look at the place and the menu and saw that it looked nice, but the food was kind of pricey. She said she was probably gonna get chicken tenders as per usual. I asked her what's the point of going then, if I can toss some tenders in the air fryer for her and not spend a ridiculous amount of money on it. She asked why I had an attitude about this, and I told her that I thought it was a waste of time and money to go to a nice place to get little kid food. She interpreted this as me calling her a little kid. I clarified that I wasn't calling her a child. However, it is kinda childish for her to eat the way she does. I also said that if she's gonna order food, we can make it home. There's not a point in us going anywhere. This leads to an argument about me thinking I'm better than her.
Am I the a-hole for yelling at my wife after she blew up my phone with calls because of a fire? I work in a place where we are not allowed to have personal electronics on us at all. No phones, no smartwatches, no pagers. I've been working here for about 6 months, so my wife knows this and understands that she should not try to contact me by my cell at work. Phones are dropped off in our lockers and I typically have mine on Do Not Disturb. Before this incident, my phone has never gone off in the locker before. Recently, there was a pretty big fire at a secondary worksite that I do work at occasionally. At that day I was working at the main building. Local news covered the fire before I found out about it because again no electronics. Plus the work we do isolates us a bit, so news travels pretty slowly. There were a few casualties, a lot of seriously injured folk. My wife had been watching the news from home and started freaking out. I guess she called me 20 freaking times, which I did not know this was possible. Overwrote my DND and my phone was ringing for a while in my locker. In the middle of my shift, I got called into my manager's office and was chewed out and written up for my phone making so much noise. They told me to go take care of whatever it was making my phone go off before I went back to work. I won't lie. When I saw those 20 missed calls from my wife, I was seriously pissed off. Like I said, she knows not to try to contact me directly, and a citation hurt my chances of getting a raise or promotion. I called her back, and she was sobbing and asking me if I was okay. I said of course I was okay and asked what the fork was wrong with her to call me so many times. She was still crying and started talking about the fire. After that I started half yelling at her about all the reasons it was dumb of her to call me. When I got home she was super upset with me. I apologized for yelling, but she refused to talk. She's been very chilly the past few days and sleeping in our daughter's room. I know it was not the best decision to yell at her, but I still think my anger justified. One, she knows I don't work in the secondary worksite very often. Two, she knows that I can't be contacted directly and she could have just called the office. 320 calls is absolutely insane. Am I the asshole?
Am I the a-hole for telling my husband my ex and I traveled to 56 countries together? I 40 for female. I am turning 45 August 3rd. 2 months ago my husband of 5 years 45 male surprised me and said he booked us a 10-day vacation to Italy. We leave July 28th. My husband is a special ed middle school teacher, so school is out until September. He has been making extra money on the side as a tutor, so we had some extra money and no kids. So I got a great idea. Instead of having a birthday week celebration, I wanted to have a birthday month like how I did it in most of my 20s and early 30s. I had a plan worked out where we'd spend the 10 days in Italy, and then go visit London, Amsterdam, and Paris. I was good at finding good value errands and have not been in Europe since my breakup from my ex. 50 male. When I presented the plans to my husband, he said that we could go to more cities in Italy, and he could help me edit pictures for my photography blog. However, he also said that he needed to have meetings and do administrative housekeeping, and he needed to do it in person. I was disappointed and he got upset and asked me to stop rolling my eyes. I told him that my ex work seemed to work 24/7s. But we were still able to plan our time in order to travel the world, 56 countries in total. My husband snapped if I would I could, but I don't have the luxury of saying to my boss that I'll call in when you asked everybody to be there in person. He also said, sorry, I don't have Silicon Valley money to spend on vacations. For context, I was with my ex from when I was 23 to when I was almost 36. My ex was very lucky and successful, and we were able to go everywhere from Buenos Aires to Monaco to Turks and Caicos. We also split our time between opposite sides of the US. However, my ex was a commitment-shy man who drank a lot and did nothing about other women openly trying to take him from me. He was always switching from saying we were getting married soon to needing a few more years of no stress and kids to decide whether to marry me. Finally, I said we needed to take a break if he wasn't ready to marry, and he broke up with me permanently. What was worse is he married somebody a year later who is now only 27. I was in therapy when I met my husband, so I unloaded a lot about my ex for closure. And I continued to talk about what was my life for 13 years until he said at therapy that he was uncomfortable since I was just reiterating old points. However, I think my husband hates my ex not for what he did to me, but thinks I'm comparing him to my ex when I'm not. I was simply bringing up the fact that if my ex and I could manage our time to make these trips happen when he was technically always working my husband, and I could work something out, but he just got snappy with me. I wasn't asking for a 5-star vacation around the world. I just wanted to see more of Europe, and my husband turns it into a competition. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for withdrawing wife privileges from my boyfriend until he proposes to me? My 29 female boyfriend, 31 male, have been together for 7 years now. I had voiced that I wanted to be engaged before the 4-year mark. He agreed at the time. When we were half a year from reaching our 4th-year anniversary, I had revisited the topic of marriage and told him I was expecting to get married. He was finishing up his master's program at the time and said he wanted to get out of student debt again and get his finances in order. I bit my tongue and understood that we are partners and I can try to meet him halfway. He earns good money, and we already moved in together 2 years into our relationship and did long distance when he was in his master's program. My job is remote, so I moved into his hometown 3 hours away from the OG. I have been seeing all my friends and cousins get married, and it's hard to feel happy on such a joyous occasion when your ring finger feels so empty and everyone starts asking you. Lately, my partner has been thriving in work and enjoying his new life, and it's almost as if he forgot about our personal goals. When I initiated a discussion again, I could sense he was dragging his feet. He didn't have enough money for a ring or savings for a wedding, when he would very well buy the motorbike he always wanted since he was a kid. He said, "Our life is good as is. Why do we need a stamp of validation from the world? You are on your one health insurance, so what's the point?" All of this just left me heartbroken. Why don't I deserve to be his wife, after being his GF for so long? Does he not love me enough to make a romantic gesture for me, choosing me over his useless bike? I talked to my sister, who got engaged 2 years into her relationship, and her approach was simple, yet effective. She told me to withdraw all wife privileges from him until I get that title. That he has to earn me, not cleaning and cooking for him, moving out, not pay for his expenses sometimes, stuff like that. My boyfriend got mad because I didn't renew our lease with him, and told me that's a very poor way of handling things and we need this constant in our life to preserve that intimacy, telling me that's the kind of precedent I am setting up for our eventual marriage. I have been a wife for you without the title. I gave myself completely to you, only to expect you to do this one thing for me. I've waited long enough. I don't really believe in ultimatums, so I am not going to force your hand. I am simply acting as your girlfriend now. If you really want our relationship to go back to what it was, you better give me an upgrade. Am I the a-hole at it? To all the dense folks asking me why don't I just propose, I have something to say. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Some people like things to be traditional, and he and I are certainly that. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. In our culture, in 2023, in hetero relationships, a woman making comments about being ready to marry, wanting to get engaged is her proposal. Then it's up to the man to either accept by proposing formally, or decline by not proposing. And at that stage, the woman proposing is embarrassing herself by doing it TBH. It's just a dumb gotcha where people like to play fox dumb, and scratch their heads at how daft cultural norms are, and like to pretend that things have evolved to be how they wish them to be in the future. Similar to the fake disingenuous wait, you've discussed marriage and both said you want it. Surely that means you're engaged. Why are you waiting for a ring? He probably doesn't even realize you need one. You're engaged. Just book a venue? Which pretends that proposals don't actually exist as a way of formally asking for marriage, instead of merely expressing positive feelings towards the idea.